everybody, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I have one that will help you tremendously, or at least I hope it will, for school. So school is coming up. It is pretty decently well into August, so it should be coming up within the next few weeks, and that's why I wanted to make this video so that I can help you provide my experience with how I've taken notes all throughout undergrad with my iPad Pro and also using my computer to help, but you don't really need that. I'll explain later how you can get around it if you don't have one. To start off, if I look down, that's because I have like some bullet points that I want to make sure I hit, so ignore that, don't worry about that, it'll be okay. So I want to start off with what you need in order to take notes. As I mentioned in the title and previously, you'll need an iPad or some sort of tablet to take notes this way. You can use notebooks actually, like that's totally fine. There's just a few steps that will be slightly different. The reason why I like my iPad is because I have all of my notes in one place instead of having like 500 notebooks, because like that can get heavy. I really like how compact and small my iPad is. I mean, it's not that small, it's normal size, but it's a lot smaller than having like 5 notebooks or whatever. So yeah, that's why I use that. And as far as note-taking apps, I use 2, and that's really mainly because I had to buy one for high school. The first one's Notability. That's the one that I had to buy for high school because we were just required to use it. So I have that. I've already paid for it, so why not use it, right? The other app that I also use is called Goodnotes, and this is the app that I actually prefer more. That's why I bought it when I already had Notability. I bought Goodnotes specifically for college, and the reason why I like it more is mainly because it has like notebooks, like actual notebooks, and you can organize those into folders if you wish. For example, I have like fall 2020, spring 2021, that kind of stuff. So I have it all organized, and within that folder I have my notebooks, literal notebooks, like placed out. I just like the way it looks better, but they're very, very similar, so what you can like pick either one, or you can download both, although I think downloading both is kind of unnecessary. The reason why, I already went over the reason why I have both. So yeah, that's what you will need. The reason why that I use my iPad instead of a computer or something is mainly because writing something out, like physically moving your hand and writing it out, helps me remember things a lot better than if I were just typing it out. And it's something to do with like, it takes longer and you're actually like forming the words, whereas like with typing, you're just going like this, you know. That's just a personal thing for me. I know a lot of people agree with me, and I know some people are like, no, typing's better. So to each his own, but that's how I like taking my notes, and that's why I use the note-taking apps that I do. In the very, very beginning of the semester, I always like emphasize that it's important to ask your professor if it's okay to audio record their class. It's always just a polite thing to do because some don't like that. I've never encountered any that don't, but that's not to say that they don't exist. So it's always just a nice thing to do to be considerate. So that's what I'd recommend doing. And that way you can freely audio record their class and you're doing it legally. The reason why that I audio record is because if I miss something during class, it's always nice to go back and find that spot again and then finish that thought. So for instance, there's a lot of instances where I have like a half-written thought down because they speak really fast. And so the good thing about Notability here is that when you audio record, you can audio record on a note. And this is why I love to still use Notability, even though it's not my actual favorite notes as a whole. And that's because you can record directly on the page, and you click on the stroke that you were writing. So for example, if I click like where I'm starting to write that thought, and then it brings that recording to that specific spot so you don't have to go searching for it. I hope that made sense. It's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, that's why I love that aspect of Notability. Goodnotes should have something like that, but they don't. So I use Notability in class. And so I kind of jumped ahead there, but I did want to kind of leave you with why I audio record rather than just jumping ahead to something else, just so it makes sense. So that's why I like to audio record in class. Now, before each class, if the professor has a PowerPoint that they upload to their Canvas or whatever management site thingamabob that they use, I would recommend downloading that before class, just so you're prepared. You walk into class and you're ready, and you can go ahead and start writing. And if you don't have a PowerPoint, obviously you don't need to do that step because you can't. So if you have the PowerPoint, what I do in class is I follow along with that PowerPoint, and they're talking to that PowerPoint. So I just, on that PowerPoint, I annotate it. So I add any additional things that they say that I find to be important. I think that are important, that they emphasize. And I do this, I write down so quickly. So my notes in class look like a hot mess. Like, they look like a hot mess. They're not cute because it's just annotated on the side of a PowerPoint in scribbles. But it's neat enough so I can read it, and that's all that matters. And if I ever like miss something, for example, I'm writing a thought but they speak so fast, this is what I was talking about earlier. I just write a little question mark and circle it, and that way I can click back there later and finish that thought. So if you don't get a PowerPoint, this does make things a little bit trickier, but you can still figure things out. It'll be okay. This has been like most of my chem classes. For some reason, they don't give us PowerPoints, but it obviously differs from class to class, professor to professor. You'll experience this, but basically, if they display the PowerPoint but just don't give it to you, what I do is I just look at the PowerPoint and I listen to them, and if they really emphasize something that in words that they have on that PowerPoint, 100% writing that down. And I'll take key points from the bullets that I deem to be important, just really jot them down quickly. But yeah, so that's kind of tricky. It takes some time and some practice deeming what's important and what's not. It also takes practice with that specific professor, getting to know their testing style. So it's kind of like trial and error. But if they just totally don't use PowerPoint at all, like they're not even displaying one, and you're just listening and writing on the board, it's very similar. You just kind of take what they write down and take what they list out with their mouth and kind of just compile it on a piece of paper or your iPad or whatever, and then we'll get to the next steps with what to do with that now. So you went to class and you have this messily annotated PowerPoint or this messily written down notes with stuff that they've said in class. And so I recommend doing this step relatively soon after that class, after that lecture, within like a day or two, just so it's all fresh in your mind and you don't kind of like lose it, if you know what I'm saying. What I do is I make a PDF of my Notability and I airdrop it to my computer. But if you don't have one, you can just split screen, and that totally works as well. So I airdrop it to my computer, and then I have that there, and then on my iPad, I go to Goodnotes. This is where I use Goodnotes. And I use Goodnotes as like my final notes, like where my final notes live essentially. And so I kind of went over this earlier, but I have a folder, and then in that folder I have notebooks. And so I go to my notebook and I start a new page wherever like a new topic is. I organize it by topics rather than lectures, because sometimes like a topic takes 2 lectures or whatever. So I kind of bookmark that page so that I can see all of the topics clearly in front of my face. And then I get to writing. So I look at the notes that I have on my computer and I rewrite them. Yes, this takes a lot of work, a lot of time, but this is the way that I found to help the best for me to remember all of the information that I need to remember. It's a lot of information. So I totally just go to town. And that's essentially it. So I have a color system with my notebooks, and I'll go ahead and share that with you in case you're curious about it. So what I do is I write all my words in black. I just write everything in black, so it's like simple. And then if there's a keyword, I write that in red, so it stands out, like totally stands out, and it's like, hello, I'm here. And for headings, I write that in like a dark blue and underline it for like subheadings, you know, like underneath like the big main topic, which I write like really big in black. And then if there's any like super subheadings like underneath those headings, then I write that in light blue and in cursive. So that's kind of like what I do. Obviously you can come up with your own color system and style, but I like how simple and plain it looks. It's not too dramatic and over the top. So that's basically it. Also, I have pictures in my notes. So sometimes I screenshot the PowerPoints since I have the PDFs. And then I crop them and place them in my Goodnotes there where they belong. Either that or I take a picture of something in a textbook and then I crop that and put that in there. Anything that I deem to be important and I feel like I want to be in there, that's what I do. So yeah, that's essentially it. Then once I have like everything in Goodnotes, that's where I go to like study later before an exam. I just review my notes, look at them, you know, look at those red words for key topics. And the nice thing about Goodnotes is it has a search button. Actually, Notability has this too, but it's a lot more hidden. So you could do this in either app. But what I do is if I need to search for a certain topic, I search for it and then it scans all of your handwritten notes. This obviously works if your handwriting is neater because it's easy to recognize. But it scans all of your notes and it shows you the instances where you wrote it, so you can refer to that if you need to find a specific topic. And that basically concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it helped you out. If it did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you have any additional questions you want to chat or whatever, just leave a comment in the comment section below and I will reply to that as soon as I see it. But that's it. I will see you back again next Sunday for another video. Bye.